Why would a smaller country like Ukraine take the audacious step of attacking Russia within its own borders? What pushed Ukraine to make such a daring and risky move against a much larger and more powerful neighbor? Well, the situation between Ukraine and Russia is anything but simple. It's a tangled web that stretches back many years. After the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, Ukraine stepped into the spotlight as an independent nation. However, Russia has always seen Ukraine as part of its own sphere of influence and was far from pleased when Ukraine began to cozy up to Western nations like the European Union and NATO. Tensions escalated in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, a region that rightfully belonged to Ukraine, and began backing separatist groups in eastern Ukraine. This ignited a war in the Donbas region that dragged on for years, resulting in heavy fighting and countless lives lost. The real game changer came in February 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia claimed it was acting to protect Russian speakers and to halt NATO's expansion, but most of the world saw this as an unprovoked assault on a sovereign nation. The invasion brought about widespread destruction and suffering in Ukraine, with cities being bombed, millions of people forced to flee their homes, and thousands of soldiers and civilians losing their lives. From the outset of the war, Ukraine has shown incredible bravery in defending its territory. However, as the conflict dragged on, it became clear that merely defending their land wasn't enough. Russia's military was vast and powerful. To turn the tide, Ukraine began launching offensive operations, including strikes on targets within Russia itself. One significant method Ukraine employed was the use of drones, small, unmanned flying devices capable of carrying explosives or cameras. Over 100 drones were sent to target Russian military bases, supply depots, and transport routes deep within Russian territory. These drone strikes aimed to disrupt Russia's ability to supply its troops engaged in the fight in Ukraine. By targeting ammunition stockpiles and fuel supplies, Ukraine hoped to slow down or even halt Russian advances. These attacks were not just military, they were also psychological and political. They demonstrated that Ukraine could reach deep into Russian territory and wasn't afraid to do so. This not only boosted the morale of the Ukrainian people, but also sent a clear message to Russia. The war would come at a high cost, and Ukraine was ready to fight fiercely for its defense. Additionally, it helped Ukraine secure more military and financial backing from Western allies like the United States and various European nations, who began to see Ukraine as a determined and capable partner. As we look at mid-2025, the war is still ongoing, but the dynamics on the ground have changed. Ukraine has managed to reclaim some of the territory it lost in the early days of the conflict. Although fighting continues, particularly in the eastern and southern regions, both sides are enduring significant losses. The conflict has led to a humanitarian crisis, with millions of Ukrainians either displaced within their own country or seeking refuge abroad. Many areas have seen their infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and homes devastated. International attempts to broker peace have seen little success so far. Russia shows no signs of withdrawing from the territories it occupies, while Ukraine remains firm in its demand to reclaim all its land before any agreement can be reached. The drone strikes within Russia are part of Ukraine's strategy to pressure Moscow into negotiations, demonstrating that Ukraine can retaliate beyond its own borders. In short, Ukraine has launched drone attacks and employed other tactics as a means of fighting for its survival and independence. The war began with Russia's invasion in 2022, and Ukraine's actions inside Russia are a way to defend itself, disrupt enemy operations, and advocate for peace on its own terms. The conflict is still very much alive and has had devastating consequences, but Ukraine's resilience continues to influence the course of this war and the future of the region.